does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review, another special Kickstarter review. And today I'm very excited to check out Dragon's Interest from Tasty Minstrel Games. This is for 3 to 5 players. Take about 90 minutes to play, and it's for ages 13 plus. And in Dragon's Interest, you are trying to start your own city with a whole bunch of different colored buildings. But in order to do that, unfortunately, you're going to have to borrow money from a dragon, and eventually he's going to want his money back. If you can't pay his money back, well, then he is going to ravage and destroy your city, and you are going to immediately lose the game. Also, you're going to be trying to use either money or knights to take over other people's buildings and try to have the most buildings in front of you and the most diverse amount of buildings in front of you at the end of the game. This is a game with layers that I didn't start seeing until I started playing the game, but are those layers good? Let's open it up and I'll tell you what I think. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Dragon's Interest. So before we get started, I do want to mention this is the promotional copy I have in front of me, so take everything you see here with a grain of salt, obviously. If you'd like to see what the final components are going to look like, I believe that is what they are going to look like, and I think this is going to be a deluxeified version of the game that TMG does a lot of the time. I'm not quite sure about that. Don't quote me on it, or do quote me on it. I don't care. It's your prerogative. You can do what you want to do. So, in Dragon's Interest, we got our rule booklet, 7-8 pages, double-sided, full color, full of pictures, illustrations, lots of examples, and it's a well-done rule booklet, and it's only going to get better. They said they are even polishing it up more, so yeah, but tons of pictures, which you gotta love to see, and the scoring is nice, clean, and concise. So what you're going to do in this game is you are going to be building your area right here in front of you by placing tiles on these 6 different spots right here. At the end of the game, for every one of these you have a building on, you're going to get 1 point. And if you have the most of a specific color, you're going to get an additional point. No ties. Ties get points for no one. So at most, you're going to have 12 points, but everyone else would really have to suck at the game in order for that to happen. So let's go over the components, then let's get into the gameplay. So component-wise, we have 2 forms of currency in the game. You're going to have coins, which you'll be using to purchase other people's buildings, and you're going to have knights in increments of 1s and 5s, at least in the prototype, in which you're going to be using to take over other people's territories. How many things you start with is actually dependent on the number of players. So for 4 players, I believe it was 3 knights. So we'll just start with 3 knights. We'll put it right down here. Now for table space, you actually have a little shield that goes in front of you, which I'm sure will probably have some useful information right here. And that will cover up how much money you have, how many knights you have, and the cards you have, even though the cards are going to be face down. And that is very important information to keep secret. You never want anyone to know how many knights or how much money you have. And I'll explain that why a little bit later. Next, we have our main area right here. And there's going to be 6 different types of tiles if you're playing 4 or 5 players. If you're playing 3 players, you'll actually use a different little middle tile, and you will get rid of the Adventurer Guild, the red. But since I wanted to show you how it works, we're going to be using all the tiles right now. When you first start up the game, you're going to be setting out these special tiles that have this little emblem up here, but that's just for the first game. And we'll explain how those tiles work a little bit later. You got your first player token, blah, whatever. You're going to have this dragon who's going to be going around collecting interest, but he's going to start right up there for the time being. And now we're actually pretty ready to start the game. Oh, and you're also going to have this fancy little box that looks something like this that you're going to be passing around a good deal, but right now I have this white box. So the first thing you're going to be doing in this game is you're going to be taking your cards. And I forgot to talk about the cards, but they're going to come in increments, I believe, from 4 to 14. And then you'll have 1 special Jester card, which will actually outbid everybody if someone bids 13 or 14. It goes all the way up to 17, which is a lot. Or you'll get nothing. And if you get nothing, well, that's a big bummer because you actually don't get any of the tiles out here. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's show you how the actual game works. So first you have Phase 1. Phase 1 is where you're going to borrow gold. So I'm going to take a look at all the different gold increments that are currently out. So $8, $6, $4, $5, and $7. And then this is a special tile. This is called the Generous Dragons tile, which means he's going to give you twice the amount of money that you get this round. So getting the 8 is going to get you $16 as opposed to getting the green, which is only going to get you $8. So what you're going to do is you are going to put one of your contracts out secretly. You're going to do that. So for me personally, I really want to win this one, but at the same time, it's not a big deal. I might get 8, 7, or 6 are going to be good for me. So you know what? I'm not going to go crazy, but I will go ahead and put out a solid $8. So I'd put this out right here, and then everyone is going to do that, and we're all going to reveal at the same time. The person who has the highest amount is going to be the first person who's able to pick a tile. They probably would pick this one, and they're going to set it right down here, and they're going to get that amount of money. So this person would get $8, but since it's the Generous Dragon round, as you can see, all the way up there, and there's only one Generous Dragon round, it's the first round, they would get $16, and they would place it into their tableau. The next person would take the 7, obviously. The next person would probably take the 6, and then I'd probably be stuck in 3rd, and I would probably, or 4th, I'd probably get this orange one in here. So I would collect $10. I put the orange tile right there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tuck the contract underneath your card. Because what's going to happen during phase 4, most of the time, is the dragon is going to move around different areas, and he is going to then get his money back. Because this whole round is you borrowing money from the dragon to build these buildings. And when it goes past the orange, I'm going to have to pay $8 to that dragon. If I had, this one out here, I would have to pay $25 to that dragon, and if I cannot do that, then he will destroy everything that I've created, and the game will be over, which is a great time to tell you about how the game can be over. The game is over at the end of a turn when someone has 10 buildings out here, or when someone's entire civilization gets destroyed by the dragon, who's mad because you didn't pay him, so he's kind of like a bookie, or if all the tiles run out. Then the last person, since we're playing, a 4-player game? Oh, so yeah, this tile would get discarded, but we're not ahead of ourselves. Next, we go to phase 2. Now, since we're doing the Generous Dragon phase, we would actually skip phase 2, but for this particular example, we're just going to show you how it works. And in phase 2, every single person at the table, starting with the first player, is going to take one of the 6 actions in the game. And the 6 actions are down here. You also could pass on your actions if you'd want to, but most of the time people will not do that unless they absolutely have to. So let's go over the different actions, and I do want to forewarn you that they sound very similar. Honestly, when I read the rules, I was like, what? These actions are dumb. They all sound like the exact same action, but I was very misled. You have to play the game to really get a feel for it. So the first action is over here, and how you're going to do it is you're going to collect 1 knight for every single one of these tiles you have right here. Now, I could not actually take any of these actions aside from the orange action, because in order to take an action, you have to have a tile there, which adds another layer to the game. But for this particular example, I'm just explaining how it works. So you get 1 knight for every building you have down here, and then you are going to take this box, and you're going to put as many knights as you want to put into the box. So for this time, I would put 3, obviously. Or maybe, let's pretend it's later on in the game. I might put 6 into this box, and I'm going to close the box. Now, I don't want to tell anybody how many knights I put in the box. Well, this is very, very important. And then I'm going to look around the board, and I'm going to decide which tile I would like to take from someone else. So let's say that somebody else has that blue tile over there that I really, really want, and I'm going to say, all right, I'm going after your blue tile right there, buddy. So I hand them the box. They open the box very secretly. They look in the box, and they say, what do I want to do? And they have 2 choices. They can either take all the knights in this box, put them behind their shield, and they now have 6 more knights, and then they lose their blue tile, because I destroyed it with my knights. Or what they can do is they can actually put 6 of their knights in there, say, no, we're not having that. They pass the box back to me. I get all 12 knights, so at this point I would now have 12 knights, which would be good, but then they're going to come back and they're actually going to steal one of my tiles. So it's a high-risk, high-reward situation. Moving on to the blue spot, it's the same thing. You get money for every one of the blue tiles you have down here, and then you put money into the box. You secretly say, hey, I want that red tile over there, or whatever tile you're trying to get. You hand them the box, and then they have the choice to either put double the amount of money that's in there, and then take over one of your properties, or give you that property, so essentially would buy it. Moving on to the yellow one, it flips the script a little bit. You're going to collect money for every yellow tile you have down here, but then you're going to put knights in the box to fight. And then this one right here, you probably guessed it, you're going to get knights for every green tile you have down here, and then you're going to put money in the box. Now, the last 2 tiles are actually really interesting and very different from the first 4 tiles. This is a way that you're going to be able to convert either knights to money or money to knights. So how this space works is every single person at the table is going to get money for how many orange tiles they have in front of them. And then you are going to set 6 coins in front of you, like so. So you're going to set 6 coins in front of you, like so. Then everybody else is going to put as many knights as they would like to into their hands. So this is the arena. They're sending their knights to try and win that. So everybody, reveals at the same time, and whoever has the most knights is going to win the $6, but the player who initiated the action is going to get those knights. You're essentially trading $6 for knights. Now, if the person who actually put their, who did this action wins, then they lose their knights, but they get $6 more. So you could potentially double up your money there, which is nice. And the last, the Red Adventurers Guild action, is that everyone's going to collect money for however many, or collect knights, excuse me, however many red tiles they have in front of themselves. And then you're going to put 3 knights in front of yourself, and then people are going to bid on those knights. And this is just straight up bidding. People are just saying, all right, I'm willing to spend, $8 for those 3 knights or whatnot, and then you do the swap-a-roo. Very similar to how the orange spot works. So every single person at the table is going to take one of these actions. So for this whole phase, people are just going to be passing boxes around, taking tiles, buying tiles, doing all sorts of different things. So then we get to phase number 3. Once everyone has had a turn to take one of those, which is where you're going to refresh the available buildings. You're going to take away the buildings that were there, and you're going to flip over new buildings to be put out like so. And this is actually a good time to show you the 2 other special buildings that you're going to run into. And one of them actually popped up. So these are the 2 special buildings that you have the potential to run into. This one, if it pops up, you have to pay 2 knights. And if you can't pay 2 knights, then you lose one of your tiles out here, which is really stinking bad. So you're always going to want to make sure you have 2 knights on reserve. You can't just go for broke. This one is going to make the dragon move forward 1 additional space, which I'll explain actually right now, because now we're on to phase 4, which is where the dragon collects his interest. So remember, during phase 1, we took out these contracts, we borrowed money. Well, now the dragon's coming and he wants his money. So normally he would only go 1 space, and everyone who has a gray contract down here would have to pay however many contracts they have down there, whatever cost is on it. Like for this particular example, I would have to pay 25, even if I didn't have my buildings there because somebody stole them. Now, since this came out, though, we would go 1 additional space, which means that, if, unfortunately, I had a 13 down here, I would now have to pay $38 because it passed both gray and blue, which obviously incredibly expensive at that point. And this is where a lot of the times the game is potentially going to end, because if you don't have enough money to pay that, your whole village is destroyed, and then you move to the end game scoring. How the end game scoring works, just a refresher, very, very simple. For every tile you have out here, so let's just say that this is what I ended up with. I would get 1, 2, 3, 4 points because I have 4 different colored tiles, and then I would take a look to see if anyone else has 2 or more oranges, because the person that has the most of a particular color is going to get an extra bonus point. And whoever has the most points at the end of the game, well, obviously is going to be the winner. If there's a tie, I do believe it comes down to the number of knights you have. And then the second tiebreaker is the number of coins you have. But that in a nutshell is how you're going to play Dragon's Interest. Alrighty then, Dragon's Interest from Tasty Minstrel Games coming to a Kickstarter near you very, very soon. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, game's not going to be for everybody for a variety of different reasons. First and foremost, I think 4 and 5 is really the sweet spot for this game because you get to add in an extra action, and also it makes the bidding a little bit more interesting, the phase 1 bidding a little bit more interesting in my opinion, just because it makes that Jester card a lot more viable, whereas with 3 players, it's a lot less likely to happen that someone's going to spend 13 or 14, but once you get to 5 players, that's probably going to be happening a little bit more consistently. Another comment I have of this game, and this is more of a nitpick than anything, is that I really wish that it had more special ability tiles. Maybe tiles that generated a coin or a knight every turn or something like that. I think that would be a really cool aspect to add to the game that's not currently in there. And I would not be surprised that if this does well, if they added more to that, because I think some special ability tiles or special ability cards, like how the Jester works, because that's the only special ability bidding card out there, would really spice up the game even a little bit more. And I'm going to tell you, I think this is a great game as is. But I think 4 and 5 is the sweet spot for this game. But that being said, we had a hell of a lot of fun at 3 players as well. Continuing on with the cons, this game is somewhat unforgiving in the aspect of if you make a pretty big mistake along the way, or if the dragon moves just 1 extra space or maybe 2 extra space that you were not expecting, which can happen randomly with those seasonal event cards that make the dragon move one extra space, you can just lose the game immediately. And some people are not going to like that. Now, for me personally, I love when games do that. It's like, all right, here's the rule. This is the big rule. You have to pay the dragon. You have to pay the dragon. You have to pay the dragon. What happens if I don't pay the dragon? You're dead! Some people are not going to like that rule. I like that rule a lot, and I do like the fact that there's different ways for the game to end. And I love alternate victory conditions, but I also love alternate game end conditions, but some people are not going to like how severe that dragon punishment is, especially with the randomness element mixed into the game, because if 2 of those little, squirrel, oh, I guess that's a dragon, it's not a squirrel. If 2 of the dragons looking at the calendar come around, then that guy's moving 3 spaces, which means somebody's probably not going to have enough money to deal with that. Also, there can be times where someone might accidentally reveal how many coins they're putting into the box or how many knights they're putting into the box, especially if you just drop it 1, 2, 3, or you might accidentally say it. And that's very valuable information. So people who aren't as familiar with the game might accidentally ruin that aspect of the game. Now, it hasn't happened for me yet, but I could very easily see that happening where someone's, dropping it into the box. They're just like this, and then you can just count it, and it's not like you can't not count. It's like you can't, you're gonna hear that, and it's, yeah. But that's more of a minor nitpick than anything as well. Another comment I have of the game is it is somewhat repetitive. I mean, that the action phase, I think it's phase 2, we're gonna be passing around the box, is just people putting stuff in the box, passing the box, putting stuff in the box, passing the box, putting stuff in the box, passing the box, putting stuff, and you're gonna do that potentially 5 times in a 5-player game, and you're just going to be doing that over and over and over again. So the game does follow a very similar pattern, which for some people is not something they want. They want some interesting choices. They want some different things to do on different turns, and this game does not provide that. You are just going to be putting stuff into a box, giving it to someone, and then they're going to decide if they want to double what's in the box and take something from you, or just take what's in the box. Any other cons that I have with the game? No, not really that I can think of off the top of my head. Because moving on to the pros, oh, that's the last comment I have of this game. If this is your first time playing this game, versus someone who's played it 2, 3, 4 times, they're going to have a definite leg up. But that's not a huge con, because that's how it is in a lot of games. But there's layers in this game, and so I'm going to tell you the pros, that you don't see. So let's just get on to the pros. So moving on to the pros, I think this is a great game, and I absolutely recommend this game, and this is absolutely going to go into my TMG shelf over here. If you want to know what my favorite TMG games are, they're on that shelf right there. Those are the ones that I've chosen to keep. But this one is going to go on that shelf, but there's a lot of different reasons why. So first and foremost, 3 players was a hell of a lot of fun, and I think 4 and 5 is the sweet spot. So that can tell you how good this game is, but I like the layers in this game, and they're layers that you don't see. When I first read the rule booklet, it's a short rule booklet, I was like, what? Because normally when I read a rule booklet, I've read enough rule booklets that I can get a feel for how the ebb and the flow of the game is going to work. I read this rule book and I'm like, so we get money, and then we pass a box around. And we pass a box around, we pass a box around, and we pass a box around, and then we pay a dragon, and then we get money, and we pass a box around, and pass a box around, and pass a box around, and then we pay a dragon, and then we just keep doing that over and over and over again. That's the game. That's the whole game. And you say that, and that is literally the entire game, and it doesn't sound like a fun game. But then you start to see the layers, because then you're like, oh, but you're making really interesting choices when you're passing that box around. Because when someone hands you, say, 6 knights, it's like, whoa, 6 knights is a lot of knights. I could take these knights. Or I could spend 6 of my 8 knights that I have. And if I do that, I get to take one of their tiles, which is like me directly taking a point from them and giving a point to me. And there's not many points in this game, so taking points from someone is a big deal. But by doing that, you are leaving yourself very susceptible to someone else potentially swooping in and undercutting you on those knights. Like, if someone just attacks someone else, and I think they attack with a whole bunch of knights, I'm looking at myself, I'm like, first I have to look at my board and see if I can actually attack them with knights, because that's the other really interesting aspect of the game. You can only take actions for tiles you have in front of you. So there'll be times where you're like, oh yeah, I'm attacking this person with money, and then you're like, wait, I can't attack this person with money. And you kind of like you screw yourself over a little bit there. And that's another aspect, another layer of the game that you don't realize until you're playing the game, is that you can't take actions unless you have the tiles in front of you, and that becomes a big deal. So you don't just want to log jam yourself up with like all of one color tile, because that's going to severely limit the actions to take. But back to what I was saying earlier is, it's a high risk, high reward probability, because if I put the 6 knights in the box, yes, I steal a point from somebody, but if somebody else comes at me with knights, and they only put, say, 3 or 4 knights in that box, they're going to steal a tile from me for dirt cheap, which obviously I don't want to happen. I also really like how the economy in this game works. And the economy seems very straightforward when you're first playing the game, but then you look down and you're like, oh, wait, I have to remember that I always have to have 2 knights with me, because if that event comes up and I can't pay for those 2 knights, I lose a tile, which is like losing an entire action or an entire turn, which is a really big bummer. And I really like how that worked as well. And it creates some really interesting and fun decisions. And I think some of the best decisions that are in any board games are decisions that at face value are actually really easy to make. It's like, all right, do I want to put 6 knights into the box and steal someone else's tile? Or do I want to take these 6 knights and then do something different on my action potentially? So they're easy decisions to make, but they're really interesting and like, oh, I don't know. And trying to find that perfect sweet spot number of like, how much money is this person willing to pay in order to steal one of my tiles, and being like, all right, I need to put more money in the box that they're not going to do. Yeah, there's a lot more thinking in this game than you see at first. And you start to see the layers as you progress through the game. And I love when games do that. I love when games, like, they don't just throw it all at you at the front. It's like you slowly start to unravel what's going on in the game. And Dragon's Interest definitely does that. And it's a game that I can very easily recommend. It also says it takes about 90 minutes. I will say if you're playing 3 players, I think that's going to be cut down substantially. And the more you play this game, I think you could probably bust this out in 60 to 75 minutes. I do like the different ways that the game can end, because, you know, somebody might have 8, 9, even 10 tiles at a certain point, because you don't win the game unless you have 10 tiles at the end of the round, and then that kind of skews the game. It's like, oh, I wasn't planning on attacking this person, but now I have to attack this person, because if you have 10 tiles, you're probably going to win the game. But in the end, that is Dragon's Interest, one that I really do enjoy. I do want to also mention that this is a game that I definitely think you can play with family. If you have kids, I would say ages 11 or 12 plus, I think you could easily teach them this game, because like I said, it's just 4 phases, and one of those phases is cleanup, and one of those phases is just paying dragons. So it's a very straightforward game, despite the fact it does have a lot of interesting stuff underneath the surface. So that is Dragon's Interest from Tasty Missile Games, a game I really enjoyed. Highly recommend checking this one out on Kickstarter if it looks like it might be your cup of tea. If you're enjoying what I'm doing, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. If you want to support the channel, click at the show notes down below. Click on that little Amazon link. Buy anything on Amazon. Throws a couple pennies my way. Really helps out the channel. And in the comments below, let me know, what is your favorite Tasty Minstrel game of all time? And for me, I don't even know why I'm looking. It's Orleans. It's Orleans. It's always Orleans. Orleans, whatever. I don't care. It's just, I love how everything is intertwined in the game. I love how it's a very simple worker placement once you know what you're doing, but everything is interconnected. And I love when games can do that. Let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite TMG game? And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.